as a drift to dictatorship. Robin Day discussed them with Mr. Joseph Appiah, son-in-law of the late Sir Stafford Cripps and a member of the parliamentary opposition to Dr. NKRUMAH.
Mr. Appiah, what is the opposition case against Dr. NKRUMAH's government?
The main case, as far as the opposition is concerned, is one of creeping dictatorship.
In what way do you think there is a creeping dictatorship here in Ghana?
Well, the finest example is the case of Amadou Baba and Alpha Ladan.
The two Muslims who were deported?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they had filed their writ in court under our law to prove that they were Ghanaian citizens. And while the case was still pending, the government brings in a special act to deport them before the court has had any opportunity of deciding the case one way or the other.
Don't you feel that a government of a new independent country has the right to take special measures to keep the country calm?
No, it all depends. In any case, the denial of the right of appeal to the courts under any circumstances is an act that no democratic people or country can tolerate.
But the government was within its legal rights in doing this, wasn't it?
It wasn't.
But the court upheld it, didn't it?
No, the court, unfortunately, had to uphold it because apparently the court felt that it had no jurisdiction to decide upon the bona fides of Parliament.
Are you suggesting generally that Dr. NKRUMAH and his government do not believe in free parliamentary institutions?
Well, it's always said that actions speak louder than words. It's one thing for Dr. NKRUMAH or anybody else in his party to say he believes in parliamentary democracy. But my answer to that is, look at the things he's done since independence. Then let those who have seen these things and heard his words judge whether this is parliamentary democracy.
But you, as a opposition member of Parliament, are free to speak to me like this and to speak on the benches of the Assembly, aren't you?
That is why we say that this is a creeping dictatorship. Dictatorship has not yet taken over. In the meantime, we are free to express our opinions, but we know that, of course, it is quite clear that they are not going to pounce on people like the leader of the opposition or members of the front bench opposition, because they know what the reaction will be, not only in this country but outside this country. And therefore they pick on people like Amadou Baba and Alpha Ladan and the editor of a newspaper.
Do you think that Dr. NKRUMAH would like to make Ghana a republic, like India in due course?
Well, if I may speak of my personal knowledge of him, I know that he has always cherished the idea of a republic. And the way he's treating the chiefs, the way he's treating our traditional concepts of life, would seem to indicate that if the people gave him the opportunity, gave him the chance, he would establish a republic. As I say, it all depends on how much latitude the people of this country are prepared to give him.
Under the Constitution, can Dr. NKRUMAH, with his majority in Parliament, declare a republic?
He cannot do so if he follows the law set down in the Constitution. The procedure set out in the Constitution makes it quite clear that there cannot be any alteration in the Constitution of this country without certain conditions being first fulfilled.
Since events in Ghana during the first few months of independence have been attracting worldwide attention and criticism, Dr. NKRUMAH, the Prime Minister, has given to his Minister of Information, Mr. Kofi Barko, the job of answering all press, radio and TV questions. I spoke to Mr. Kofi Barko at his house. Mr. Barko, what do you say to the opposition charge that there is a creeping dictatorship in Ghana?
Well, my answer to that is really this, that it's only a matter of calling a dog a bad name in order to make it easier to kill it. It is known that in the democratic world, dictatorship is unwanted, and the opposition have only been identifying us with this sort of government in order to make us lose friends. At any rate, we have in this country a free press, a free judiciary system, a free radio, and an independent civil service. And I do not think the charge that we are dictators is right at all. if they were referring to the recent strong measures the government took.
The deportations.
We took these actions in the interest of democracy. We are not thinking of establishing a dictatorship at all.
Well, the opposition think, do they not, that it was an abuse of parliamentary democracy to pass a special law deporting two people when their case was still before the court?
There are 104 representatives of this country in parliament, and 72 of them belong to the government, 32 belong to the opposition. This special bill was actually introduced in parliament, and the majority decision carried it. There's no question of dictatorship about this.
But the opposition say that it was an abuse of parliamentary power to pass a special bill to deport two people whose cases were still before the court.
Well, as I've said, this bill is only being enacted because it must be enacted. Emergencies do not knock at doors, and the name implies that it is only an emergency bill. It has no reference to plots of assassination or anything of this nature.
But if you were able to pass a special bill deporting two people very quickly, couldn't you bring in an emergency bill to deal with any emergency?
Well, I mean, by the time you the emergency itself, as I have said, do not herald its coming, and you cannot pass emergency bills when the emergency is on.
Do you expect any emergencies in the near future?
Not at all. No one expects. In fact, I believe that when this thing becomes law, it may not even ever be used at all.
But in a free and independent Ghana, wasn't the hope that you would be able to get rid of the type of legislation which was necessary under colonial rule?
Well, nowhere in the world, in fact, are there no emergency bills. And they are necessary because the word emergency itself exists, and an emergency can come at any time. In fact, may I add that our emergency bill at envisaged, in fact, is a modification of the old colonial type.
Is it the intention of Dr. Nkrumah's government to make Ghana a republic eventually, like India?
Well, that is really a question for the people to decide, and the Constitution is there. If the people want to decide, it will be decided in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution.
Well, whatever the people may want to decide, what in fact is the wish of Dr. Nkrumah's government in this direction?
We have no views now. The people must decide.
Now, Mr. Barker, I've fired a lot of questions at you. Is there anything that you would like to say to the people of Britain to end this interview?
Well, yes. We appreciate your and the interest of people of Britain in our affairs, and we believe that recent criticisms from Britain on recent events in Ghana were meant to ensure that democracy has a free play in this country. And we also assure them that, in fact, we took these actions in the very interest of democracy.
And now a word or